Okay, we'll go ahead and get started now. Today, we're going to be looking at microlearning, bite-sized information to satisfy an appetite for knowledge. And I'm Kristen Purvis. I'm an instructional designer with the Office of Online Learning here at UNC Pembroke. Oops. Let me try opening this again. Okay, it's not showing my quote. We'll just have to look at this one small, I guess. Okay, so what is microlearning? While there's no official microlearning definition, all microlearning-based training shares one key element, brevity, and that means that all the content pieces are between 3 to 5 minutes long or shorter. This could be either small learning units or small short-term learning activities. For your purposes, it would probably just be short-term learning activities because most of you probably have semester-long classes or the shorter summer semesters like Maymester, things like that. Micro training delivers short bursts of content for learners to study at their convenience. Content can take many forms from text to full-blown interactive multimedia, but should always be short. That's the one thing that it always has in common if it's micro learning. Okay. So here's a few examples of different micro-learning activities. They can be text, like phrases or short paragraphs, images that can include infographics as well, if you're familiar with those. It takes elements of text, like a lot of times it'll use bullet points and then have little pictures, kind of like the clip art I used here to represent an idea. It can include videos of the short variety. 8 minutes or less is ideal for any video that you use for your class. But for micro learning purposes, as stated earlier, 3 to 5 minutes is what you want to aim for. Audio, which can be short snippets of speech or music, which is especially useful for like if you're doing a communications class or a music appreciation class. Tests and quizzes, scenario-based learning, which we're going to look at on the next slide. I made one of those for an example. And simple single screen challenges games. And I just have tic-tac-toe as a representation, but it could be something like a poll or trivia. So here's a scenario-based learning that I made using Storyboard That. We have a teacher standing in a classroom and she's thinking, I keep hearing this word micro-learning. I wonder what it means. And then someone walks in. Hi, Dr. Gray Sweater. I was just passing through and happened to read your thought bubble. Since instructional design is my expertise, I thought I might tell you a little bit about micro-learning. That would be great. I've heard it can be really useful for getting students engaged with course content. It sure is. I bet you already have used it before in some of your lessons. It can be things like short video or audio recordings, snippets of text, or simple games that test student knowledge. That does sound familiar. I wonder if any of my UNCP colleagues have used these elements in their course before. Let's ask them. So then I have this poll that I created, which I'm going to send out to you. And basically, I just want to know if you've learned any of these micro-learning elements in your class before, and you can select any and all that apply. I realize I updated her sweater color later on, so sorry for that inconsistency, but maybe that helps grab people's attention. I don't know. Okay, we've got 5 out of 7 responses so far. 6 out of 7, got one more person waiting for a response. But Let me go ahead and share these results. So it looks like most of you have used images and infographics before. That's cool. Short tests and quizzes, polls. That's great. Um, Nobody has used any audio recordings. That's fine. That's not always, applicable. You don't have to use all of these. Just any combination is always good. And using a vast combination helps keep them interested and engaged as well. So I'll go ahead and end that poll now. Oops. Okay. So what are some benefits of microlearning? Number one, it's faster to deliver. There's fewer things to write, which means shorter course delivery times. With microlearning, you can build a course with a dozen units within an hour. This lets you respond faster to different goals and new training demands. So if your curriculum ends up changing somehow during the semester, you can adapt it pretty easily if you focus on microlearning because it doesn't take too long to make those materials. It's more affordable. It doesn't require as many resources and doesn't need as many instructors. You don't even really need any special microlearning tools, just a regular LMS content editor. But then of course there's different websites you can use to make infographics. I like to use Canva, not Canvas, that's the LMS we use, but Canva is it's for making infographics and different like flyers, things like that. Next, it's flexible. Microlearning courses can cover any subject that any regular e-learning course can. And you don't only have to use microlearning in online courses. They can be used once we resume in-person teaching as well. Because really, like I said, it's just about the brevity of the activity. If it's short, then it counts as microlearning. Number four, learners find it more engaging. It's been cited as the most engaging training delivery method available. And I know that a topic we've been talking about quite a bit this semester has been how to make your online course more engaging. So microlearning would be a good thing for you to start incorporating into your course if that's one of your concerns. It boosts knowledge retention. Um, According to microlearning research, when you study something repeatedly and revisit it when you're close to forgetting it, you retain it much better because it kind of jogs your memory. Let's see. It gives learners more freedom is the last one. Regular online training can often use text-heavy courses. This can get kind of monotonous and can cause fatigue in your learners. Microlearning, however, lets them enjoy a casual learning experience whenever they have some spare time. And for me personally, something I found that I like about it is I get the satisfaction of checking that off my checklist. Like, okay, I did that one easy thing and look, now I only have like 5 things left to do. And it's gratifying to see like that you're making progress and you're working through these things. So for a lot of people, they might prefer to have like 5 short things to do rather than one long thing to do. And that's especially important for adult learners because as mentioned earlier, they don't often have huge amounts of time that they can commit to classwork to set aside like an hour or two, but pretty much anyone can find like 5 to 8 minutes during the day to take a little break from their daily activities and do a quick learning activity. So those are the benefits. But we do have 2 limitations I wanted to talk about. It's not ideal for complex concepts. So this doesn't mean that you can't use it in your class. It just means that you would need to break down complex concepts within your class into these smaller pieces. So you couldn't cover the whole history of the founding of America in one micro learning unit, but you could break it down into smaller pieces and talk about different concepts. It's a really good way to make analogies as well. I'm someone who works really well or understands patterns really well. So Like with the scenario-based training I made, that can help students relate the content to real life and start using their critical thinking skills. And then the other limitation is it's not suited for in-depth training. Um, you're probably not doing too much training in your courses. Some of you might though, but that's more for like corporate applications. If you're training new employees, if you have student workers, it might not be ideal if you have them doing complex tasks. Um, but same thing with number one, it can be used to break down complex concepts into smaller bite-sized pieces. So best practices. First, you need to check whether it's right to use for your case. If the subject at hand is complex, requires in-depth study, or calls for in-person training, microlearning might not be best suited to that particular lesson, but it might still be useful as a supplementary training method, especially if someone's struggling with a particular concept, or if you're a professor who likes to offer extra credit, it would be good for that. Um, Another way that I've seen it used when I was in graduate school, we had a lot of homework assignments that were micro learning type things, where we would just make like a scenario based training or a short audio recording or a video or something just to show that we understood the material that we'd been learning about that week. Next is skim the fat. So don't just paste chunks of your regular e-learning material into a micro learning unit and be done with it. It needs to be short and focused content that captures the essence of what you're trying to teach. Number three, use multimedia to spice things up. Text alone can bore your learners. Add relevant multimedia assets such as videos, photos, illustrations, and animations to keep their interest. Choose it carefully though. Don't just use it for the sake of using it. Um, and as we'll talk about in a later webinar in April, accessibility is something important that you have to keep in mind with this. If you use images or videos, make sure you include alternative text so that students who use screen readers or things like that can still interact with the content in a meaningful way. Number four, turn on gamification to boost engagement. So you could add a few games to your courses, and this can just be things like polls. We like to use Mentimeter a lot in the Office of Online Learning. The poll I did earlier is just one that's built into Zoom. Another tool I've talked about previously is Jeopardy Labs. It's like a trivia type thing that you can do with your students. So those are good ones. And then last, you can use micro assessments to assess progress. You can use mini tests or short quizzes to make sure your learners are progressing with training goals. And again, this could just be a Zoom poll or a Mentimeter poll. Okay, so that wraps it up for micro learning. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to stick around here for a few minutes, or you can also email me. It's just my name, Kristen Purvis at uncp.edu. Or if you want to do a one-on-one consultation for instructional design, you can book it by clicking on that link, and I can send this PowerPoint out to anyone who's interested afterwards. And for more information on micro learning, I've got a link down here at the bottom where I got a lot of this information from. And that's a really great website, elearningindustry.com. They've got a lot of good articles that can help give you good ideas for how to enhance your online courses and just different pedagogical methods and everything for teaching online. So I'll open it up for questions and comments now if anybody has any.
I had a question on, you had mentioned Jeopardy Labs. Is that an app that we need to add for the students to be able to use it?
Nope, it's just a website, and I can send you a link to that. I'll probably drop it in this presentation if that would be helpful, and then it'll
Okay.
already be included in there. But it's just a website you go to. You don't have to register for an account or anything either. It's totally free. And you can make your questions about anything you want. You can choose as many different categories as you want, and it works exactly like the game show Jeopardy.
Yeah, it'd be great. So how do students access it?
You can, the way I've seen it used most and the way I think makes most sense is if you're doing a synchronous online class, you would share your screen with them like I was just doing with y'all with the presentation, and you'd have that Jeopardy screen up with all the different categories. And you can divide your students into teams, or you can just have them act individually and take turns picking a different category and what amount they want. And then they just unmute themselves and answer the question after you ask it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Well, I posted a statement in the form of a statement question. I asked you, did the micro learning just something that aligns with what we used to call warm-ups?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just to keep the students motivated or alert.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that's micro learning in action. Yeah.
But only is throughout the lesson, not just at the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like
Okay.
doing periodical warm-ups if that's the terminology.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, good connection there though. That's good.
Yeah.
Is there a university license for Canva? I don't know if we have one. I'll have to ask. Let me copy that question and I'll ask and I'll get back to you on that. But when I've used it in the past, you just make an individual account. I think you just sign up with your email address. A lot of things are integrated with Google nowadays. So you might be able to just log in with your UNCP Google account. But I think that it's open licensing. I think you can use whatever infographics you make on there in your class without having to pay a fee or anything. But I'll see if UNCP has a license, if that's something they use.
Would you include that in the course information or in the presentation as well?
Or yeah, I'll put that in there.
Thank you.
And I'll put those links on the final slide since I've got the link to that e-learning industry website as well. Any more questions? Nope.
Nope. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.